viewers, welcome to the GPF Activity Review. And today I am with the Commissioner for Prosecution and Legal Affairs, Commissioner Abdoulaye Sane. Commissioner, you are welcome to GPF Press.
Thank you very much, Pierre.
Commissioner, just this morning, we've witnessed a ceremony where the Inspector General of Police and the leadership of the Gambia Police Force had an engagement with all regional commanders, regional commissioners, with their respective chiefs of operations. And during which period you made a presentation. I think you are one of the greatest stakeholders in this, trying to highlight some of the legal framework as far as election security is concerned. I just want us to take us through this event and what you can share with the public with respect to the function of the police and the powers and all about election-related matters, because we are aware the Gambia Police Force is empowered to enforce all laws, meaning all other laws, including the Election Act. So, please.
Piero, thank you very much. Yes, you mentioned it rightly, because this morning we had to invite the regional commissioners and their chief of operations all over the country so that we can come and discuss mainly the issue on election act. For the election act for 2025, it is important that all the police officers to have the understanding of the law, because recently we have seen situations where the Gambia Police Force has been dragged to situations that we think is not part of our functions, even though we are police officers, because the law is very clear. The election law is very clear, 2025. Especially Section 2, it made it very clear that this act shall be administered by the Commission. And when we say here the Commission, we are talking about the IEC, Independent Electoral Commission. They have the primary responsibility to administer this act. So, with the powers of the Inspector General of Police, yes, sometimes people will just walk into the police station and complain about some election fraud here and there. But what we want the police officers to know, and even the general public to know, that we have a responsibility, and our responsibility has to be within the confines of the law. We cannot operate beyond the law. So when the law says that's what we will do, we are not saying people cannot go and complain to the police stations. Yes, sometimes you feel offended and then you want to go to the police station and you complain. And if the police tells you that this is not part of our mandate, people feel offended. But it's not that. We have to work within the confines of the law. The Election Act is very clear. It stated that Election Act shall be administered by the Commission, and then every commissioner at the election of the IEC, they know their responsibility, especially the polling stations. If something happens that has to do with the Election Act, it's the IEC that has the primary mandate to report the matter to the police, not individual to walk into the police station and complain that a particular person was found registering a document. That document is not valid. As long as it concerns the Election Act, the responsibility lies on the IEC. The IEC be the office that will report the matter to the police, and the police to look into that case, if necessary, to open a file and send it to the Ministry of Justice. That is the responsibility of the police. But people will walk into the police and complain, and if their complaints are not being treated, they feel that maybe the police, one way or the other, are not doing what they're supposed to do. But that is not the position of the law.
Commissioner, just let me bring you back a bit. You talked about the responsibility of the Commission as far as the Election Act 2025 is concerned, and that is responsible. And when individuals, we've seen scenarios where individuals would go to police stations and complain. I want this area to be very clear, because in recent times we've seen similar incidents where, like you mentioned, the Gambia Police Force is dragged into something, and it's normal in this country that almost everybody who has an issue would first have to go to the police station and complain. And I want this to be very clear. How should you report if you as an individual you see something that has to do with election fraud or anything in relation to election issues? How do you proceed?
Every political party, you have your representative that you send at the police station. And why do you send them at the police station? They are there for a purpose. And the purpose there is to see any irregularity that you think it is happening, the malpractice that you think is happening. Maybe somebody comes, you think the person maybe is having a birth certificate whom you believe is not a Gambian, as you take, or somebody comes with maybe a passport. What is what the law says under Section 13 of the Election Act of 2025. You have to have certain documents, that is the national ID card, the passport, the birth certificate, and any document from Alcalo or the chief. So if you have your party representative who are there to represent the party, there's no need to cause any chaos. No. Just if somebody comes and then the election officer, who is the person who has the authority to decide what happens at the polling station, if you are there and you believe that somebody comes with a document that you think the document is not valid, what you do is you don't go to the police station and report the matter, because it's not the responsibility of the police. You take jottings, take note of that individual details. In the event that the IEC happens to mention that particular person on the final list that is going to be published by the IEC, the law is very clear. It's saying when the list come out, we have 14 days to make objections and omissions as per the list. So you go over the list, you see, because your party militants are over there, they will just take jottings. They write the names of those individuals that you think they are not eligible to be registered. Then if you make those jottings, you have that with you, then you submit to the party. Then your party will now challenge those names that appeared on that list. And the law is saying that within 14 days, if the names are published by the IEC, you have the intention to, file your appeal. So, and when the revising code is being established according to Section 27, the CJ, that is the Chief Justice, has that authority to establish a revising code. So those areas that you think you have an objection, you have an omission, you will file it before the revising court. The revising court has the authority to expunge those names from the list or to maintain those names on the list. But going to the police station to report the matter because you think maybe the person comes with a false document or with a false birth certificate, you cannot go to the police and complain. If you go to the police to complain, police don't have that authority to say that document is fake, is this, unless it is reported by the IEC. So this is what I want the general public to understand, that all election offenses, they have to be administered by the commission, not the police. Yes, we have the police, we are responsible of enforcement of all laws. But the law is telling you that the particular institution is the one responsible to report the matter to the police. So please, what I want the public to understand is, if you think there's something wrong during the election processes, do not go to the police and report directly, because if you go there, we cannot act because it's not our primary responsibility. We will refer you to the IEC, and then the IEC will come and make a formal complaint. Or you have the right to wait for the revising court. You put your case before the revising court. If the revising court, whatever decision you think is not in your favor, the law says you can still appeal on the decision at the High Court. This is what I want the message to go across, so that with the masses, everybody can understand that this is what is guiding the election process.
Commissioner, we also see police officers within the polling stations. Then if people are not to complain to the police, then why do we have police officers within polling stations?
Yeah, police officers are there.
Or registration.
Police officers are there because if you look at the law, it is saying that the IEC can inform the IGP, and the IGP will put police officers just to make sure that at least there is smooth registration process to undergo. If anybody want to cause any disturbance, anything, the police are there. But once somebody is committed an offense, that offense is in relation with the Election Act. We are saying that the IEC is going to be the person to report the matter, not any other person. Of course, if the election officer complains to the police that this particular person comes with a document that we think is forged or is wanted to commit any crime, the responsibility of the police are there. No need even to go to the police station. You inform those police officers that is their responsibility. They will arrest the individual and take it to the station. But we don't want individual to leave the police stations and walk into the police station and complain that something is abnormal at the police station, and then you think the officers have to leave their office to go there and effect arrest. We will not do that because it's not the law that says this. So we have to work in accordance with the law. This is what I want the message to go across.
Commissioner, thank you very much for this very important discussion. I think it's worth it that we have a sit down as a family and go through the Election Act itself to understand and know how to respond to some of these things. That is very important. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, DPR.